As common as the flood account is throughout the whole world, so too is the account of giants. From childhood fairy tales of Jack the Beanstalk, Jack the Giant Killer, or the Jolly Green Giant of advertising vegetables, their creation stems from the ancient accounts of giants in all cultures from all ages and claimed history. I will briefly encapsulate a few examples from a vast amount of legends and myths from all over the world. Beginning in the east, we have the Dyatsas, which produced the Asuras as large shining ones. In Thailand, we have the Yak, where we find huge stone jars with lids strewn about in a path starting from northern India through Thailand down into Laos and Vietnam, suggesting a migratory pathway that belonged to some very large owners. In Sri Lanka, we have the legends of the Mahachina, depicted as white giants. We have the biblical Nephilim, mentioning tribes of giants from the Zamzummim, the Emites, the Rephaim, the Anakites, and individuals like Og of Bashan, being about 9 foot tall and having 6-digit fingers and toes with a double row of teeth, and of course the famous Goliath as a Philistine, a big white guy with a bad attitude. We have the Greek and Roman Parthenons, consisting of deities that were giant gods and their offspring, the Titans, Hercules being the most famous. We have the lion men of Moab. We have the Assyrian god Zoroaster, who was a large bearded white man that flew in a shiny disc and wore a pennant of a German knight's cross. We have the jinn of the Arabic world, with an Islamic folklore about 4 giants, 2 of them whom were named Gog and Magog. They were sent out to guard the 4 corners of the earth. Later, this myth may have been modified in Russia and described the 2 giants, Gog and Magog, who came out of the Euphrates River to guard the pillars and opening to the mythical gates of Alexandria. This account sounds similar to the prophetic account in Revelations, where the 4 spirits are loosed from the Euphrates and prepare the way of crossing for the kings of the east to invade Israel in the valley of British lore has 33 wives of a Roman emperor that were exiled from Rome and washed ashore in England, who then married with demons and produced the giants Gog and Magog. Irish lore claims that they are descendants of Gog. In Europe, we have ogres, trolls, and other giants in myths and legends. Thor, Grendel, and Freya of Nordic myths as part of Wagner's operas are the most familiar of the Norse gods. In Greenland, the Inuit have a legend of an Inuit hunter who faces Sakil Yuusi of the Tarnuk-ak, or long-ago people, who in past times made the Inuit disappear. In Northern America, most American Indian tribes and locations over the entire continent can recount legends about encounters with giants. The Shawnees claim a civilization of large whites lived in Florida before they arrived and left their buildings going back into the caves of the earth. Incas have a similar folklore of a subterranean white race that travels via caves. Legends of the Oglala Sioux claim that the giant white men lived in the northern areas. Archaeological evidence seems to confirm this. The Hopi tales have encounters of large white giants that came out of the nearby caves. They also claim and found the founding of their religious beliefs came to them by encounters of the Vahana, large white brothers that came from the heavens. Above every teepee was placed their main icon, a sign of good luck, the swastika. In South America, we have the Viracocha of the Incas, Kukulkan of the Mayans, and Quetzalcoatl of the Aztecs. And in the central area is Gucamas. They are all described as gigantic or tall white bearded gods that came from the skies. Viracocha was said to have made giants and then humans. The giants were named after him and were tall bearded white humanoids and are said to have built the cities in the area. It was said that the giants soon ate all the game and then began to eat humans. They all became corrupt and Viracocha destroyed them in a flood. Spanish explorers found large human bones and skeletons, and the natives told them of the Viracocha. When they came upon the ruins at Tiwanaku, Bolivia, the explorers were told that the Viracocha built the city in one night by floating 2 to 5 ton blocks in place by a magic trumpet. We are only beginning to understand light and sound as power sources, and it may be this was an actual application of an unknown physics of harmonics applied to some kind of electromagnetic anti-gravity applications as revealed by Nikola Tesla. The fierceness of these deities reflect upon the cultures of the Incas, Mayas, and Aztecs as they practiced cannibalism and rituals of sacrifice ripped out a person's heart while they were still conscious. In spite of such depravity, the giants also bestowed upon their human worshippers technology beyond their proper time frame. Many of the tribes performed trepanning, a form of brain surgery, and Mayans had a calendar as accurate as our modern-day atomic clock. In all of the myths and legends of giants, there is one that is always left out, and yet is pivotal to understanding how these ancient mysteries have already affected our own modern history today. Helena Blavatsky was born of Russian nobility and later moved to New York in the late 1800s. She has been credited as being the godmother of the New Age movement. She traveled extensively and combined myths, legends, religions, and pseudoscience to a philosophy religion called Theosophy, melding Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism and the mystery ancient schools of Egypt, the Mithraism of the Grecian and Roman empires, and Babylon. She brought back the serious worship of these ancients as an updated intellectual form of Gnostic philosophy. Her 2-volume text, called The Secret Doctrine, has impacted the world almost as much as the Bible, only in the opposite matter. I personally call her the anti-Moses. She defined a time when the golden age of the gods dominated the earth. It was said that there were 7 different races that had superhuman power, created from dirt and primates. They soon misused their powers and became violent and tried to dominate each other. Some were giants, others were grotesque like monsters. The gods realized that they had to find a solution to this problem. They created a new Superman to dominate and eventually lead the others back on the right path. This new stock came genetically from the gods themselves and were supposed to be superior in strength. Trained by the Manu, gods from the heavens, they were isolated into the high mountainous regions to prepare for their future roles as leaders. The other races discovered the plan, and war against the new master race began. The master race wins the war, but in the process loses their spirituality and their powers. A religion was given to them by the Manu, and a special sign showing their uniqueness apart from the other races. It was the sign of the sun wheel. This symbol, as described by Blavatsky, revealed the flow of the electromagnetic creative flow, Fohat, as a pure energy consciousness called Atma, which came from a hollow earth from the north and flowing back into the pole in the south called the Pit. This was also prophetic of the race's origin as coming first out of the earth in the North Pole, and then their prophetic eventual return to the underworld place or origin near the end of their Dharma cycle, which is going back into the opening at the South Pole, or the Pit. The arm of this sun wheel depicted centripetal or centrifugal flows and indicated the past or future of the race. In Atlantis, the master race thrived, until another war broke out between other races, and the Manu destroyed Atlantis with a flood. The surviving master race was taken safely to the mountaintops of the Himalayan mountains, and there in Shambhala they would await for their destined role to rule the new world. If you haven't guessed it so far, the master race was called the Aryan, and the sun wheel sign was called the swastika. This was the religion and driving force which brought the Nazis to do everything they did in their 12 years of global terror. We are still under the philosophy, and it is now being repackaged as a warm and friendly New Age movement, but that will be for another time. The Nazis were in pursuit of large white giants they believed to be their pure-strained blood brothers. Prophetically, they believed they were destined to make an alliance with them, using their supernatural power to rule the world. This then was the occult beliefs and driving force which they acted upon. Without realizing it, they were trying to bring back the world before the flood, the people, and the technology. Other evidence of giants are in relics found. We have many wall reliefs and objects of artwork depicting giants, but how about actual concrete evidence of giants? Are there any fossils or skeletons or traces of giants on the earth? Look for yourself.